Hi everyone, welcome to the second episode of Cooking the Books. Today we are going to make a very simple Dahl recipe. Before we get started, I would like to acknowledge the land that I am filming on today, the land of the Wurundjeri Wurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. Okay, let's get started on today's recipe. So you can see I've laid out the ingredients in front of me. This Dahl recipe is very, very simple. I picked one that will require no knives, there's no onion, no garlic, it's vegan, it's gluten-free, it's nut-free. This is the go-to dish if maybe you have some different allergies in your family. It's also, my sister feeds it to her 6-month-old baby. If you have had dental surgery, you could have it. It's such a versatile dish. And everything you see on the table in front of me also costs less than $5 to make. So if you're really looking for a bang for your buck, maybe you're heading off to university soon, or in the future, and you really want a cheap, quick meal that's nutritious and delicious, this is for you. Alright, I'll just show you what we've got on the table. So first off, we have our red lentils. Dal can be cooked in lots and lots of different ways, but today we're doing a red lentil dal. We've also got turmeric. Turmeric is grown in the ground and as a root, and then they dry it, and then this beautiful color comes from when you mash the dried root up, and it's really good for you, has lots of health benefits. And also we have fresh curry leaves. Now we grow these at home, but you can also buy them from almost any Asian supermarket or Middle Eastern supermarket. I've got a pinch of salt in here for taste, and this is just a simple vegetable stock that I also got down at the Middle Eastern supermarket. You can use water though if you don't have stock. I would just suggest adding a little extra salt if that's to your preference. So what we're going to do, and you also might wonder why I have such an old spoon and old pot. Well, this pot, my mother taught me to cook dal 20 years ago because my mother has Indian descent, and this spoon is the exact same spoon, so not only is this cheap, you can cook them for years. So for today's recipe, we're going to use, this is a cup, we're going to put 2 full cups of dal in here. Now this will cook for about a family of 4 for dinner, but if you have more people, just feel free to double the recipe. We also have our turmeric, which is a beautiful color, and we're going to add, it's probably the equivalent if you're doing this at home and measuring it, it's about a tablespoon, maybe even a little bit more. This gives the dal that really beautiful yellow color. I'm going to add our curry leaves. I would suggest a big sprig or about 20 individual leaves. Pop that in. This is our stock. I've used 1 liter of vegetable stock, and we can add more later if we need, but we'll definitely, the lentils are going to absorb all of this. The one thing with dal is you just got to keep an eye on it when it's cooking because we don't want our lentils to burn. Stir it around. And add a little bit of salt. We can add more later, so that's probably just 2 pinches. We can add more if we need it later. So that's how simple this recipe is. It's literally just putting our lentils, our turmeric, our stock, and our leaves, curry leaves, in a pot, and then we're going to put it and slow cook it on the stove for about 30 minutes. Alright, let's go. Okay, so we're going to bring our pot over with our ingredients in it to the stove. Or a dekshi in India, that's what we would say. If you haven't lit in the stove before, it's probably best to grab a parent or guardian. We're going to put it on a high heat to start with. And if you watched the omelette video, the safety tip applies here as well. We're going to keep our handle off to the side so that if the handle's this way, we're much more likely to hit it and knock the pot over. And because we're going to boil the lentils, it could be really hot and dangerous. So nice and safely on the side. And what we're going to do is bring it up to a boil and then turn the heat right down and really slowly let the lentils absorb all that delicious flavor and water. And the best tip I can give you with dal is just to keep an eye on it. It's one of those meals that it's simple, but you don't want the bottom to burn. So it's only going to take half an hour to cook, but you want to keep your eye on it and make sure that you're topping it up with water once the lentils start to absorb. And once you master this dal recipe, you can start experimenting with different vegetables in it, making an onion paste to start with, which is a bit more traditional. this is a fantastic way to start learning about dal, and I still make this at least once a week. You can start to smell the turmeric now. Okay, so you can see now that our water is boiling, and what's happening now is the lentils are absorbing that. And you can even see they're getting a little bit translucent on the ends, which is what we want to see. Eventually, when they're all cooked through, you won't even really be able to tell which lentil is which. So now that it's boiling, like this, what we're going to do is turn the heat right down. So we're going to turn it down as low as it can go, mainly so it doesn't burn and we have time to replenish the water when needed. And we're going to cook it like this now for about 25 minutes. And you can add water straight from the kettle if it needs a bit more, or you can add some more stock. That's completely up to you. So you can see here now that our lentils are really absorbing all of that stock, but they're not fully cooked through yet. So even if you grab one, you can tell it's a bit crunchy on the inside. So what we're going to do is just grab a little bit of extra water, just so it has more to absorb. Keeping it on a nice low heat so that nothing burns. Alright, so now we can see the dal is almost like soup-like. And this is going to taste delicious, I can already smell it. But right at the end, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add just a little bit more salt. If you haven't made it before too, it's always really good to taste something before you try it, but because this is so hot, if you're going to taste it, I'd grab a spoon. Really blow on it to make sure it's cooled down. You don't want to put some burning liquid into your mouth, so really make sure you cool it down first. Perfect. Alright, and then it's pretty much ready. We can turn it off and then we're just going to plate it up. Okay, so bring your bowl over to the stove. Rather than taking a really hot pot over to the vent, it's a lot safer if you turn your pot off and take your bowl. You can serve dal with lots of different things. You could serve it with basmati rice, you could have it with roti, but I'm just going to have this plain. If you want a bit of a creamier feel, you could have some yogurt, that's quite popular. Or if you want a bit of spice, maybe add some pickles. The best thing about dal is once you've kind of mastered this basic recipe, you can really mix it up and you could throw in some cauliflower or onion or, yeah, do anything with it really. Right, let's taste. It's still very hot, so be careful. Delicious and nutritious. Well, thank you for joining me, and if you've enjoyed this week's episode, maybe you'd like to check out some of our online resources that we have for cooking. If you go to Cloud Library, there's some fantastic cookbooks in there. I know we've got lots of Jamie Oliver, Yoda Motolangi, lots of simple cooking books too, so if you're kind of looking for your culinary adventure, it's a great place to check some things out. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye!